Welcome back to the Sterilization Station. This is Bill Rochelle, your host. So glad to have you back for another episode as we're empowering, encouraging, and motivating those in sterile processing. And today we have a dynamic episode coming straight from me to you that I know is bound to encourage and motivate you in your quest to be a sterile processing technician or to grow and develop in sterile processing. Today's episode title is Forged for Purpose, Becoming the Instrument. We are going to empower you and encourage you today in sterile processing as we dive into this very, very important topic. As many of you are aware, an instrument goes through a process to be made, whether you're a student, an extern, or a professional, whether you're going into that leadership position in sterile processing, there's a growth and development that must happen to you as you begin to become that instrument that could begin to be used to provide excellent patient care. And so welcome back to the Sterilization Station, where we empower students and professionals in sterile processing to grow with confidence. We are that confidence boost that you're looking for in the space of sterility. And so today we're diving into this really beautiful metaphor about how a surgical instrument is made, crafted, designed, and polished for use and prepared to be used in surgery. And I think you're going to really connect with this. The journey of a surgical instrument from raw steel to a precision tool, and how it mirrors your journey as a student, as an extern, or a new sterile processing professional. Let's face it, every day we handle instruments that save our lives, right? But have you ever wondered how those instruments are made and what it takes for them to become the tools that the surgeons rely on, right? Just like those instruments, you're being forged, you're being shaped, and you're being refined for your own purpose. And today I want you to imagine that you are one of those instruments, because the journey of becoming confident, becoming skilled, and becoming proud to be a sterile processor is just as detailed and intentional as the creation of a surgical instrument, right? So we think about when that instrument first comes, into that manufacturing facility. What is it? It's raw material. Every surgical instrument begins as raw material. Let that sink in today. Typically high-grade stainless steel or titanium. This material is chosen carefully because it's strong, it's resistant to corrosion, and can withstand repeated sterilization cycles. Steel in its natural state, right, is strong but inflexible. It doesn't yet have the form or the function or the purpose that it will in one day, in the things it'll be able to achieve. And similarly, even sterile processing students starts as raw material, right? You might be nervous, unsure of all the steps, or unfamiliar with the surgical instruments and procedures, but you are chosen for this field because of your curiosity, your reliability, and your desire that you wanted to learn, right? And when we think about manufacturing instruments, the raw steel usually is melted and cast into bars or sheets. These bars are then inspected for purity, removing impurities that could compromise the strength or the performance. And just like that in your journey, right? This is like your initial training and orientation, the foundation that prepares you to handle the responsibility of cleaning, assembling, and surgical instruments, right? So just as steel is carefully selected, you were chosen for your potential. And just like the material itself, your growth depends on the right guidance and being in that right environment to become the tool that you were meant or destined to be. We think about how the next phase is the forging process, right? Once that raw steel is selected, it undergoes forging, one of the most critical stages in instrument creation. Forging involves heating the steel to extremely high temperatures and shaping it with precise hammering or pressing. This process aligns the steel's internal structure, increasing its strength and resilience. And in a way, this is like your externship or your early days in sterile processing, right? You're under heat, learning fast, handling unfamiliar instruments, and you're adjusting to the pace of the operating room. You make mistakes, you feel the pressure, you wonder, will you ever get it right? But that heat, those challenges are exactly what's shaping your skill and your resilience. And after the forging, the instrument goes through annealing. This is a controlled cooling process that makes the steel easier to work with while it's relieving internal stress. Think of this as those moments when you took a step back, you reflected on your experiences and learned from the feedback. You're cooling down, processing, and preparing to move stronger. Every mistake you make is like a tiny hammer strike, right? It might feel uncomfortable at the time, but it's aligning you to be stronger, more precise as a professional. And just as the instrument can withstand the pressure of surgery, you are learning to handle the pressures of your career in sterile processing. Now, after we go past this phase of it, we begin to go through the forging process. Then we begin to move into the refining and the polishing phase of making a surgical instrument. Once the instrument is forged, it moves into grinding and polishing. During this grinding phase, machines or skilled technicians shape the instrument into its precise form. Scalpels are honed to sharp edges, scissors are aligned perfectly, and forceps are carefully calibrated. Every edge, every hinge, and curve is examined for perfection. Polishing follows a meticulous process that removes microscopic imperfections and smooths the surfaces. The result is not just functional, but precise and safe for surgery. This is where your training mirrors the insurance process. As a sterile processing professional, you learn to expect every hinge, every ratchet, every tip. You polish your skills, you refine your techniques, and develop an eye for detail. Repetition, patience, and attention to detail are your grinding and your polishing. And just like a polished instrument glints under the OR lights, your confidence and competence will shine through you when you approach your tasks and care with precision. Now we begin to move into sterilization and readiness. Next, the instrument will be sterilized, prepared for its ultimate purpose. It's cleaned, disinfected, and subjected to high-pressure steam or other sterilization processes to ensure it is completely safe for patient use. The instrument is now ready to perform under the most critical conditions. Think of this as your readiness. After training, you've been oriented and you've been practicing perfectly. You've reached the point where you can work independently with confidence. The skills you developed, cleaning, assembly, inspection, they are now ready to serve you. And just as a surgeon trusts the instrument to perform perfectly, the surgical team trusts you. Your work is critical for patient safety. This is that point where you realize that every lesson you learned, every mistake that was corrected, and every long day was preparing you for your purpose. And now this instrument is ready to use. Finally, it reaches the operating room, where it performs its intended function, often saving a life. Every cut, every clamp, every suture, forceps, or pick-upper relies on the precision and care of the instrument, and by extension, the sterile professional, and by extension, the sterile processing professional who prepared it. Your work is behind the scenes, a superhero with a cape, without a cape and scrubs, yet absolutely essential. You are the foundation of every successful surgery, every patient recovery. And just as instruments are tools of healing, your skills and diligence and care of trust and safety, they're life-saving and they have a great impact. Remember, the surgeon holds the instrument, but the SPD professional is the one that prepared its readiness. So what can we take from the life of a surgical instrument? You are the instrument. Let that sink in. You are the instrument. Forged in challenge, refined in detail, and sterilized for purpose. Your journey may be tough, full of learning curves and heat, but it is shaping you into someone reliable, skilled, and indispensable. Every externship shift, every tray you assemble, every instrument you inspect, it all matters. It all matters in sterile processing. You are building the foundation for a career that will directly impact patient safety, and surgical success. So keep showing up, keep learning, and remember that excellence is forged, not given. And one day you'll look back and see how far you've come from raw potential to a professional ready to perform at the highest level. Remember, this is the sterilization station. Stay sharp, stay steady, and stay thankful for the purpose that you serve.